Hi everyone, I'm OneMind Dogs coach Niki Drage, and today we're going to talk about dog agility in any weather, skills that you can train inside. I'm quite passionate about this topic. I learned quite a bit about different skills I could train to continue my agility journey a few years back when I had knee surgery and I wasn't able to do much other than hobble around for quite a while and not able to run for a long time. But I was in the peak of my sort of agility career with my dogs and I had two dogs competing that were doing really well. So I wanted to stay on that flow. So basically, I learned lots of different skills that I could train inside. And as a benefit of that, I actually learned a little bit about the importance of these skills and that we easily forget them when we're always training sequences or courses at club or in big arenas. So it is nice to sometimes bring the focus back to these kind of skills that are so important but so easily forgotten, because they're not as like fun or fancy as running a big course. But before I get started, I just want to give you a little brief introduction to OneMind Dogs for those of you who are new to the method. So OneMind Dogs originally came about because of this Border Collie Tekla, who was owned by our founder, Janita Leinonen. Janita was competing at a world level with Tekla at this stage, and then Tekla had sudden onset deafness and lost her hearing. And Janita had to completely change how she handled Tekla because originally her method was a lot of verbals and obviously the dog could no longer hear. So she did a lot of testing with, what if I run this way and slow down? Or what if I turn my chest or look over here? What does she do? And out of that trial and error, she noticed a few things about this dog. And then she decided to test this with her students and her friends and basically anyone who was willing to try. She said, okay, well, if I turn this way, Tekla does this. Let's see if your dog does the same. And then she sort of out of that developed these 7 handling elements that almost all dogs very naturally respond to in the exact same way. And those 7 elements is where the OneMind Dogs method was born from. And we use those 7 elements to create several different handling techniques. And we've continued adding new techniques so that we have enough for every kind of situation, every kind of handler, every kind of dog, to create their own little toolbox to be able to handle their dog no matter what their situation is. And we've also discovered some general big philosophies about dog ownership and about the importance of connection and all those sorts of things as well along the way. So OneMind Dogs now is more a way of life rather than just a set of handling tools. So it's more about how you are with your dog and how you communicate together and how you understand agility and life from the dog's point of view, not just from the human point of view. So we will always talk a lot about your dog's perspective, and this webinar is no different because it's very important to us. And yes, very much lays at our heart. So today we're going to talk a bit about the handler skills you can practice inside, the foundation skills you can practice, jump skills, handling techniques, discrimination, and conditioning skills. One of the main reasons that I was passionate about wanting to produce this webinar is because we very often have students come to us and say, oh, I can't train for the next few months because of the weather and I'm stuck inside, or because I'm injured or my dog is injured, anything like that. And I wanted you to know that while it's obviously okay to have a break and it's great to give your dogs a few months off, to give them a break every now and then, or maybe you need a mental break, there is always something that you can work on either side of the team, you or the dog, no matter what the situation is. So never feel like you're stuck or you can't progress because of a certain situation. There are always options. So I wanted to show you that and show you those options. So firstly, talking about handler skills, so learning without the dog. OneMind is very passionate about this, and it's because after teaching almost 20 years now, probably 80 to 90% of the situations that students come to me with can be fixed just by teaching the student to understand how their body language affects their dog. So what we do is teach our handling techniques, for example, to our handlers first without the dog. So we get you to walk through the 7 handling elements. This is what you do with your movement, your position, your eyes, your chest, your feet, your hands, and your voice. And we get you to repeat those 7 handling elements to a point that it becomes mentally stuck in your brain. So it becomes muscle memory is the word I was looking for. Because the more that you repeat certain pathways in your brain, the stronger those grow. They are neural pathways, and the more you repeat those same things over and over, the more your brain automatically switches to that thought. So for example, if I say, I want you to do a German turn, and I teach you, okay, a German turn means you do this with your movement, this with your position, this with your every handling element, And then you practice doing that without your dog, just by yourself on the ground, maybe with a broomstick if you're in your lounge room, or maybe with 2 cushions and a pole, something like that, or a jump if you can set up a jump in your lounge room if you're lucky. And you practice those 7 handling elements just by yourself over and over. And you say to yourself, okay, German turn, I do this, this, this. Then by the time you've done that 20, 30 times, eventually you'll get out on the course and say, okay, German turn, and your body will automatically do those 7 handling elements. And you may not believe it, but I have experienced it myself. I now like see a line on a course and go, oh yeah, that's this technique. And then my body just does the technique and I don't even have to think about it, which is awesome because it makes it much quicker to walk a course. And also when I'm running my dog, I can focus on connection and timing and things like that. And I don't have to worry about what my body is doing. So that's the importance of learning these things without our dog. So I'm going to just show you a very quick video of what sort of things we have on the website about learning without the dog. So here is an example of OneMind Dogs coach Miko doing a few different handling techniques. And this example is from our footwork videos. So our handling techniques have these footwork and dogs line videos that give you examples of how you can practice your handling and how the dog's line would be if you handled a certain way. And you can start to then practice these 7 handling elements and learn a whole new technique, and even send our coaches a video and say, you know, this is me doing this technique. What do you think? And we can then give you the feedback and fix any issues that you're having without ever having to involve your dog, which means that there is then no frustration for the dog. So then the handler is doing all the learning because dogs already know OneMind Dogs method. That's the whole point of the method, that it's natural for the dogs. So we just need to teach the handlers what to do. So once we teach you what to do like this, then we can bring in the dog and it will be very easy for the dog. Minimal repetitions, no frustration, and it just becomes much more enjoyable for you to train with the dog if you already know what you're doing as a handler. So we currently have this guided course running, 10 handling techniques on 1 jump. And that's perfect for this because we get the handlers to show how they do it without the dog, to video that, and then we give video feedback back, and then they perfect it, and then they bring in the dog. And it just makes the whole training process so much easier. So that is one really important skill that you can train without your dog. Another one would be course analysis and learning to make handling plans. So if you're new to agility, this is really important. If you have just moved up to a more advanced level and you're starting to feel courses are a bit complex, this is also really important. So basically it involves getting a handling map, which you can get many of them on social media or just on the internet. If you Google your code of agility and your level, you will be able to find some course maps. And on that course map, you can look at the dog's lines. So you can see in this image on the side here, we actually have a whole online learning theme about this process. So this is a screenshot from that. You can say, okay, my dog could go this way or it could go that way. Why would I choose the right wing versus the left wing? What line does it create for the next 4, 5, 6 obstacles? How does it change my dog's leading leg that they're on? How much does my dog see the next line of obstacles? Because the earlier the dog can see a line, the earlier they can predict where the course goes, the more confidence and speed they will have. So it's all really important. The line that you choose for your dog makes a huge difference to the speed and the smoothness and the accuracy in which you run a course. So we try to teach our students to set their dogs a line so that they see only the correct obstacles on their path. That way you will avoid off-course obstacles. So being able to analyze those lines is a big part of that. So I would get you to have the course map, draw the lines that you think are best for your dog and explain why. And then again, you could send that to our coaches and say, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And we could help you understand a bit more about how dogs move through the course, how dogs see a course, because that might make a complete difference. We might say, you know, if your dog slices this, then they're landing looking at this. So then that will affect how you can handle that. There are so many things to learn when you analyze just the paths in the course and the options in the course and the overall effect. Like I might sometimes choose a certain technique at jump 20 because it means that it sets the line nicely for jump 21, and because it means that I can get out of jump 18 sooner and be able to get there on time. So every part of the course is connected. It's not just this is what I do on this one jump. The overall picture is created by learning how to analyze courses like this. And the more that you practice this on just course maps at home, the easier it will be when you get to a competition and you have a course, you can quite easily analyze, oh yeah, I saw that situation already. I know that this is what my dog requires for this exact situation. And I can analyze what the best options are for my dog. So that is a skill that you need to practice and learn. And this is the perfect time to do that. Memory is also very strongly connected to this. So if you've ever forgotten a course or you walk a course and go, oh, I just can't get it in my head, for me, the whole thing that changed that. So I've been competing for 25 years, and the biggest change for me in memory and smooth handling was visualization. So after I walk a course a few times, so I walk it once for numbers, then I walk it again to look at my dog's lines and choose which lines I want my dog to take. Then I walk it again to decide the handling techniques I will use to create those lines. And then I'll practice any situations where I was like, oh, I don't know if I'll get there, or do I need a blind or a reacross here because of where I'm positioned? I might just like run those through with my virtual dog. So pretend I have a dog with me and run them through and get a feeling of where I'm going to be and things like that. And after I've done all of that, I will leave the ring and I will turn my back on the course and I will memorize. So I basically visualize that my dog is with me, and I say all the verbals that I'm going to say, and I practice all of the handling elements of all of the techniques I've chosen for that course. So I might say, okay, I'm going to sit my dog here, and then I'm going to lead out to here, and then I will give my release. So, okay, send to the backside, turn my chest, pick up on this side. So I'm really thinking about all the steps that I need to focus on when I'm handling. And I need to be able to smoothly go through the entire course from start to finish without looking at it. If there's any bit where I go, oh, what was I going to do there? Or what obstacle was there? Then I need to re-walk that. Or if walking is closed, I need to at least look at the course and say, okay, that's what I was doing there. And then go back and visualize. Once I can smoothly visualize my whole run and I don't focus on numbers or even obstacles, I focus on my handling. So I focus on, okay, there, German turn, send forward to there, and maybe I'll think send to the tunnel, reconnect there and send here, backside, front cross. So I'm more thinking that way, so of what I'll be doing. And how many times I do that memorizing and visualizing depends on how long my wait is between runs. So if I'm on in 10 minutes, I might only get to do it once. But if I'm on in an hour and a half, I might get to do it 4, 5, 6 times. But that goal is that when you run the course, you feel like you've already run it several times because you have in your head. So instead of relying on remembering what you're doing or where you're going, you're basically just practicing what you've already done. So it becomes, again, muscle memory. So redoing or repeating the run that you feel like you've already run several times. And that is the key to having those smooth, calm, seamless looking runs, because that allows you then to 100% focus on the dog and on your connection and on your timing, because everything else is already practiced and rehearsed. So that not only has meant I've never forgotten a course, but it also has meant that I feel a lot more calm and connected with my dog when I run courses. And again, this is a skill to practice at this point. So once you've had your course map and you've analyzed your course and where you're going to run with your dog, even though you're not actually running this course, you just have it in your head, you would then visualize the course. How would it flow with my dog? How would it run? And you should be able to visualize the entire course without looking at your map. And if you get to a point of being able to easily do that, then when you do get to an actual competition, you can much more easily do it on the day as well, because it's something that you've practiced. So next one would be learning the handling techniques. So that's what we talked about earlier. So making the 7 elements of each technique muscle memory, so that when you actually get out there and train it with your dog, you're not having to focus on where should my hand go again, or where does my chest point, or where do my feet go, because you've already practiced those by yourself. So you know what you're doing, and you can just focus on the skills for the dog when you're actually training with the dog. Then there would be theory. So there is a lot of theory and self-study on the OneMind Dogs learning platform, basically learning about the dog's perspective, how dogs see things, how dogs move, how they take off and land, how they turn, how different situations or obstacles on the course cause different lines for the dog. There is so much learning that you can do without your dog, especially if you're like me and you're a bit of a dog nerd and you want to know the why behind everything, and everything needs to be logical. Then you can spend hours just watching other teams and learning. My favorite course for this on the learning platform would be the International Training Week, which is basically watching a Finnish in-person seminar, and being able to watch and audit other teams learning with their dogs. And you can learn a lot by watching that and seeing them making mistakes and then fixing the mistakes and working through it with a coach. That is a great way to learn. Then we've got fitness, so handler fitness, again, a theme on our learning platform. And it's not about, being fast and strong and all that sort of stuff and going to the gym all the time. It's just about building stability and mobility in your own body so that you can then become stronger and have speed and prevent injuries. So you can obviously work with any kind of personal trainer or anything like that, an online fitness class, or you could take our fitness class that's included in Agility Premium. But the basic things is that you need to build up your own strength and mobility so that you're not having to have that as a restriction. Like, can I run there, or can I do this technique, or will that hurt my knee if I bend that way? That sort of stuff. You want to be able to avoid having those barriers. So if your dog is on a break or you're on a break because of the weather, now is a great time to work on that overall inner strength and mobility for your joints to be able to cope with agility. And then mental training. So that's basically all about not letting other people into your space before going into a run, not having other people's opinions affect you, focusing on you and your dog. There's a lot of work you can do mentally to prepare yourself for competition and to avoid getting nervous or stressed in the ring. So again, we have an online course on this on the learning platform. We have courses on pretty much anything, as you may have realized by now. But then you can obviously also work with a sports coach, for example, on these sorts of things to help your mental state if you feel like that's holding you back in competition. So if you think, oh, last year I struggled a lot with what people thought of me, or I was always nervous and it was affecting my dog, then this is something you should prioritize. And there is so much you can do on this topic. So again, if any of these topics interest you and you want to know how to get started, please feel free to contact us via email or the chat bubble on the website, and we can help you get started and tell you how to build these skills. Now, foundation skills for the dog. So out of all my students and all my seminars, I would say at least 80% of the time, once the handler is fixed and I've explained how they should use their 7 elements and things like that, the biggest thing is a foundation skill for the dog that is missing, that's holding them back. So if they say, oh, my dog always pulls off when I do a reverse spin, it's because the dog hasn't learned how to stay committed when the handler moves, things like that. So it's always these little foundation skills that you can work on with your dog in any small space that will make a huge difference to your overall agility later on. So almost all foundation skills can be trained inside without equipment. We have a Foundation for Agility structured step-by-step program, which you can see a screenshot of here on the right. Some of the lessons are shown there. And there are so many separate topics in that program that you could train inside. Things like jump offering to increase the dog's obstacle value. Things like forward send so that your runs home are much easier. And you can send your dog and run the other way on the course so that you can get ahead. Things like handling techniques, as we spoke about, following the handling so the dog doesn't go and do its own course and choose its own adventure. Strengthening your backside send skills, staying committed to a jump, even if you do jumping jacks or whatever, so that the dog knows how to stay committed with handling techniques. In and away, which is like that threadle in sort of cue, that needs a lot of foundation skill that you can train inside. Contact skills, which you could easily just train on a cushion. You don't even need a contact if you're doing 2 on 2 off, or a mat if you're doing running. Start line stays. So there are so many foundation skills that you can train inside. And I've got another quick video of one of our team members who is training some foundation skills with her Sheltie inside her lounge room so that you can get some inspiration for what I mean. So this is Lucy and Maya. Maya does all of our videos and our visual designs in our team. And when she started with us, she had never done agility before and she was only just getting into it. And we made her do the foundation program in her lounge room so she could see it was possible. And these are some of the lessons that she did. And she said, like, to date, she now runs high level agility in Finland and competes in the 3rd grade. But she said she still thanks a lot of these basic foundation skills for her current success. Oh, and I forgot as well that I included some video of me training my puppy Inky. So my lounge room looks a little different than Maya's because I have kids and 4 dogs that live inside and it's a bit chaotic. But again, so this is working on contact mat and also on basic handling on the flat with my young puppy. Although she's not that young, she's here 9 months old, but she is a random mix of little breeds. So she always looks like a puppy. But those are just some very small little inspirations of the things that you can train in your lounge room from the Foundations program with your dog. Then we've got jump skills. So these are very important skills that require a fair bit of repetition. So for example, we have these handling techniques, human arrow and reverse wrap, which basically the teaching stages of these handling techniques teach the dog how to collect coming into an obstacle and how to jump in a diving style jump. You can teach the teaching stages of these two techniques with just one jump in a small space. So if you have a living room or lounge room or garage where you can put down like 10 rubber mats, like those puzzle pieces that connect, and one jump, then you can train these skills. And they require the dog to change their muscle memory. So it is something that requires repetition, like maybe 7, 8, 9, 10, depending on the dog and how old it is, repetitions of this very basic stage that you can do inside. And then you can build on it later on outside when you're able to train on full courses again. But those are very important jump skills if your dog has trouble turning, if your dog always slices when it should be wrapping, if your dog always lands wide and crashes on its shoulder instead of turning on takeoff, then these are very important skills to practice. Another one is distractions on the jump. Again, you should be able to do a cartwheel if you can, or a jumping jack while the dog is jumping without it taking out the bar. So we teach the dogs that their responsibility is to complete the obstacle that we have committed them to, regardless of what we do. And that way you end up with a lot less knock bars and refusals. So that's something you can train again on one jump, as long as you've got space for one jump and a few rubber mats to make it safe. And then jump offering. So you can train jump offering with even just a cone or a chair or anything like that. It doesn't even have to be a wing, but there are lots of stages that you can build on jump offering. So you can start next to the wing, you can do in front of the wing, you can do diagonal, you can do time like spaces away, and you can even move in and out. We actually have done a whole webinar on this. That's skills that you can train on one jump. So if you are interested in that, Lynn can maybe share a link in the chat on the Power of One Jump webinar so that you can go and have a look at that webinar too if you want to learn these skills. There's actually a link to it there right now, so you can click on that if you want to watch that webinar. And that webinar is for premium members, but if you're not a premium member, you can just join the monthly free trial if you haven't tried it before, and then you can look at it for free. That you have 30 days of free time to access anything on the website if you start our free trial. So that will allow you to watch the webinar or look at anything else that has interested you so far. Now, handling techniques, we talked about handling techniques for the handler. Some of our handling techniques, about 10 of them, also require some skills from the dog, especially if the dog is missing any of those foundation skills. So those techniques include whiskey cross, yucko turn, lap turn, flick, back lap, tandem turn, German turn. Now, you might be completely overwhelmed by hearing these names and go, what is that? But that's completely normal. And it's not so much about the names. Names don't really matter. But as I was talking before, it's about those neural pathways. I want to be able to say to my student, okay, here we're going to learn a whiskey cross. And the student already knows, okay, I do this with my chest, this with my feet, this with my hands, because they tie that word to those 7 elements. So that's why we have the names. But I don't expect you to know them until you go through and learn each of the elements, 7 handling elements for each of the techniques step by step, which takes time. But you will learn so much about your dog and the dog's perspective while you are learning those. So very important. But the learning steps for these techniques can be done again on one jump in a very small space. So again, all you need is a few rubber puzzle piece mats and one jump, or even like a broomstick and 2 pillows so that it's just at least raised up would be plenty. And you just need to be able to place a reward. So food bowl, treat and train, toy, container of food, whatever you use. And then you can teach the teaching steps of all of these handling techniques to your dog. And what that means is that then when you get out to a full course later on or train in your backyard, when the weather improves, your dog already has those basic skills down and you can just start adding more layers to it, like movement and distraction and obstacles before and after and things like that. And you've already done the first few steps. So very handy skill to have. Now, another thing you can work on is verbal discrimination. So a lot of people tend to think OneMind Dogs doesn't use verbals, but verbal is one of our 7 handling elements. We do use verbals, but they are the least important handling element for the dog. So while we use verbals, they should be supported by the other 6 handling elements. There are some situations, however, where you really need to have a verbal discrimination. For example, a tunnel under a contact, where or next to a contact, where you need to be able to verbally tell the dog what the difference is, because you can't physically get there to block one or the other, and you don't really want to. So you need the dog to be able to choose one obstacle over the other. This kind of verbal discrimination training requires a lot of repetition because it's not natural for the dog. So a good place to do this is in your lounge room. Now, obviously, most of us can't fit a plank, a table, and 2 tunnels in the lounge room, but this is a small example of the sort of thing you could do. So, for example, I did this when I was stuck inside with a small plank, not as big as the one in this picture, but a small one, to my coffee table. Because I'm not precious about my coffee table, but if you are, you could use whatever you want, a couch maybe. And I used one of those little kids' play tunnels, and it was only very short. But you can also get like 1 meter tunnels, for example, like proper agility tunnels if you want, that are just a very short thing. Or you could yourself use one of the cheap kids' play tunnels if you don't actually want the dog going in the tunnel. If you have a big dog, then I would probably use one of the proper 1 meter ones, which are usually not that expensive because they're so small. And you just put them next to each other, and it's basically about placing a reward behind the plank and giving your contact cue, and then placing a reward behind the tunnel and giving your tunnel cue, holding the dog in between the two and switching between them, throwing rewards. Again, we have lessons on this on the learning platform, but it's one of those things you can definitely train. And then you could replace the tunnel with a jump wing, and you could work on, go up the plank or go to the backside of the jump wing or wrap the jump wing. So the different verbal cues for those things. And obviously, when you're on a course, you will still be supporting those with your other handling elements. But if you've worked on the verbal word for it at home, then your dog is much more likely to successfully choose the correct thing because it supports what your body language is saying. You can also use a tunnel with a wing and a plank and a wing. So you can discriminate between those separate things. You can just use one wing and differentiate between going to the back side or the front side. It's then easier usually to have a wing with a bar so your dog can more easily differentiate, but you don't need the other wing if you don't have room for that. Or you could use, for example, 3 weave poles to just work on a weave entry versus a tunnel versus a backside. There are so many different discriminations that you can work on in a small space if you get creative. And then lastly, conditioning. So conditioning is a really important part of agility for the dog to help them have stability on the course. It's not so much about them just being fit, but it's about building that core strength and stability to keep them safe from injury. We, again, a course about this that's included in Agility Premium on the website. And there are also lots of other courses online and lots of free videos on YouTube that you can find if you just look up conditioning. But just make sure that the person who has created the course or the lessons is knowledgeable and certified and knows what they're talking about, so you don't actually end up causing damage or doing the wrong thing. There are also many in-person, what was I going to say? People, sports vets, physios, that was the word I was thinking of, that you can visit with your dog to develop a program if you'd rather do in person than online. So there are skills for conditioning in general that you can learn, and then you can also develop a warm up and a cool down plan. So that's another thing that I did when I was out of action a while ago, was that I basically taught my dog the individual conditioning skills, because they are like a trick that you need to teach to your dog to be able to, for them to do it calmly and correctly in a way that it will actually benefit them in the long run. So I taught them the individual skills, and then I developed a warm up and a cool down plan and practiced running through that in my lounge room until it became sort of so natural and ingrained that I knew what each step of the plan was. So that then when I got to a competition, I could say, all right, I've got 9 minutes before I go in the ring, I assume, or 10 minutes, let's say. I should be able to get through my warm-up plan, and then I just do it without having to look up what was I doing next, what was the next step. I know every step of my warm-up plan, and I can do it, and I know my dog is prepared for twisting and turning and landing and weaving and tunnel banking and contacts and all those things that we ask them of in an agility trial. And then same with cool down plans. So having a cool down plan, and I would then also develop both a fast plan and a long plan, so that if you're only having a few minutes between runs, for example, you can just do a couple of very important quick exercises. And if you have a good conditioning coach, they should tell you which are the most important for your dog and which ones you can't miss. Versus if you have lots of time between runs, then you might do a really long, steady one to really benefit your dog in the long term. And also, this is a great time to strengthen your dog's weaker side. So if you notice your dog has trouble turning tight to a certain side, for example, pretty much all dogs have a strong and a weak side. If you're not sure what it is, you can hold your dog and place a reward in front of them and then release them to the reward, make sure it's straight ahead, and then see which way they turn off the reward. So to come back to you, usually the dogs will choose the same way or almost always the same way, maybe once the other way. And then you know that that is their stronger side. So then you work on conditioning exercises to strengthen the weaker side so that you have less of an imbalance. So these are, again, great skills to work on during the downtime. So as I said, there are so many agility skills that you can work on, no matter what the weather is or what your situation is. If you're not sure in your situation or the room you have or the equipment you have available what you could work on, again, we are more than happy to help you with that. So you can send us a photo or you can tell us about your situation, tell us about your dog and what level they're at, and we can give you links to things that you should be training and lessons and ideas to help you so you don't feel stuck. Thank you for watching. Hope you really enjoyed the webinar, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I will also be sending some follow-up emails with ideas and suggestions and inspirations and activities, so keep an eye on your inbox. If you're not receiving them, then please contact us. You can either email support@onemindogs.com or use the chat bubble on our website, and we can find out why you're not receiving them and make sure that you do. If you're watching this as a on-demand recording, there will be a link below that you can use to sign up for the follow-up emails, and I highly recommend that you do. Thanks.